This is Secret America with your hosts, Jack Danger and James Clary.
Welcome, everybody. I am Jack Danger, along with the ever-happy James Clary. James, we have a very special guest for us today.
We do, man. Congressman Eric Burlison from the 7th District, my home district in Missouri.
Excellent. We're going to go ahead and bring him in now. Eric, how you doing today?
Hey, guys. Good evening.
How are you doing, my friend? Eric was a longtime member of the Missouri House and Missouri Senate. I don't want to do a long introduction, but he's been in Congress for 3 years. He's aligned with the Freedom Caucus. He is known for gun rights, cutting taxes, medical freedom, education reform, and cutting government spending, which right there's enough to talk about. But I do want to note one thing, Jack. Eric is responsible, and it's a roundabout story, but his bill got us constitutional carry in Missouri. He's the reason I can take a gun anywhere in Missouri, hidden or not, which is pretty cool, except those gun-free zones, of course.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's amazing, but, it's also kind of sad that the government has to do that, just to, for us to be able to use our constitutional rights. But it's amazing that we have a congressman that is willing to help America, and the Americans get their constitutional rights and be able to use them. So, today, obviously we love having you here because, you are one of the most honest congressmen that there is, and I want everybody to know that you are one of the people that, would tell the truth. If you know what the answer is, you would tell it. And I really appreciate that. I've seen, many of your hearings in Congress, and I see the questions that you ask. It's very intelligent, articulate, well-spoken. I love that. So, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you a question, just a straight up question. Everything that you've seen, and I asked Tim Burchett this same question last week, everything that you've seen, both publicly in public hearings and behind closed doors. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to, divulge what you've seen behind closed doors, but everything that you've seen there and publicly, just a yes or no answer, not opinion, but an actual fact. Do you know that there is intelligent life beyond Earth?
Wow, we're getting right into it.
Let's go, baby.
I don't have definitive proof that there's intelligent life outside of human intelligence on Earth. I have seen some blurry videos. Is probably the best that I can give you. I've spoken with countless people and heard their whether it's whistleblower David Grush, who is now one of my part-time employees,
wow,
or it's folks like Michael Bautista, Michael Herrera. Just have spoken to a lot of people who have claimed to have had these experiences, and everybody that I've spoken to, except for maybe one, is completely, in my opinion, honest, and is believes that what they saw was non-human intelligence. I have no doubt about that. That I feel like if I put them on a polygraph test, they probably would pass. But for me, I haven't seen what they've seen, and so to me, you could look at one picture and see, what is it, a rabbit, or another person could look at the same picture and see a duck. There's a lot of times I think that phenomenon is happening. I've sat through some briefings with Arrow where they have pulled up, nearly 24 different events that everybody has talked about, that everybody's seen, and dispelled those to us and showed us exactly what they were. Now, that being said, like Arrow I think that whenever I spoke with them, a lot of people think that Arrow was kind of a catch, was kind of a, what do you call it? Like
Disinfo.
yeah. And it may be. But what I will say is I think that the current director seems to be truly trying to get to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like Tim Phillips, for example, was willing to get to the truth, but was also kind of highly skeptical, kind of like me. But I do think that they were diligently trying to get to the truth. Now, a lot of times things that they were uncovering were things that they couldn't, that were like foreign objects by some of our adversaries. And so, or items that were being developed by some of our advanced military tech.
And that's true. I mean, eyewitness testimony is wholly unreliable. I mean, you just never know. Memories can be manipulated, altered. People can think they saw something but they didn't. So it's hard to trust eyewitness testimony, right, James?
Yeah. Let me just give the audience a little background. Eric was part of a multi-session congressional briefing back in May over UAPs. If you're wondering why we just jumped into UAPs, and like you said, you just recently announced that David Grush is going to be an advisor. Now, Grush had a very high security clearance, and his testimony, I encourage everyone to go watch it, because to me, it was absolutely stunning. Eric, as you know, you and I have talked about this many times. I've been into the whole UFO UAP thing for well over a decade. I'm thoroughly convinced that there is non-human intelligence. I have no idea where it comes from. It might be spiritual. It might be nuts and bolts. I don't know, but I wanted to give the audience a little background because we kind of jumped into that. So tell us about Arrow. What is Arrow, and why did the leadership get replaced?
So Arrow is one of those, it's an acronym for a government agency. I'm not very good at remembering.
Like advanced reconnaissance, right. Something. Yeah.
All domain anomaly resolution office or something like that.
Right.
So that agency was stood up to investigate the UAP phenomenon, the unidentified aerial phenomenon, and they created a team of people that they pulled from different agencies.
Okay.
So you had someone from people from the CIA. You have people from Department of Defense. You have people from the NSA. All kind of working on this project, and the goal is to find things, run them to ground, figure out what really happened, and then where they can declassify. And they've declassified a number of events and videos. You can go to their website and see. And so, look, I think that at the end of the day, what became apparent to me, and what one of the flaws of that agency is that a lot of their requests and a lot of the people that they were, seeking, to come testify and provide testimony are either not in the private sector where a lot of this I'm told lies, or they were really at the White House SAP level, the Special Access Program level, at the White House level, which they feel like at that level they don't have to follow the normal guidelines that one of the agencies has to follow. So DoD has to provide information to Congress on a regular basis, at least to the House Armed Services Committee, to the Senate Armed Services Committee, to the Gang of Eight, right? Mm-hmm. The CIA. The intelligence agencies have to provide some kind of briefing or oversight to House Intelligence Committee, Senate Intelligence, yada yada yada, right? Yeah. But if you're in the White House program, if you're White House Special Access, they're not necessarily required to do that. And so there's also a constitutional debate. The executive branch has the authority to classify things. Some people believe that that authority only gives them the authority to classify items within their own, their own article, within Article 2. So all that to be said is that Arrow, in my opinion, what they were working within the framework that is limited because it's intergovernmental agencies. It's not programs that are being led by the White House or the private sector. So those are the conversations that I've had with David Grush, and one of the areas where he's provided some counsel and advice to Arrow on where to go to get more information.
So do you think it was an intentional, I mean, I'll just say yes, I do, but I want to get your opinion. Did at some point our government, whether it was in the 40s or the 50s under Eisenhower, if the Magic 12 committee was actually a real thing, do you think at some point they made a conscious decision to turn these projects over to private contractors specifically to avoid congressional oversight?
I do. I think that happens all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And I think that there's, things that the CIA has done throughout the years that you and I would be appalled at, that the American people would not stomach and would not tolerate. But they are able to do it oftentimes without any kind of oversight, because it's usually they're contracting with a private company that's contracting with another private company, right?
Right.
To achieve the mission, and so they can have plausible deniability. But for example, the Iran-Contra affair, all these programs, a lot of times there's things that are happening that we would not really want to approve.
Well, you mentioned Iran-Contra, like the drug running through MENA, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me ask you, and this is going to be, I'm just going to kind of change the topic here because there's something that I want to know, and I know other people want to know also. And I'm not saying necessarily that you would know this answer. It's just something that something that's been on my mind as well as everybody else's. Do you know anything a little bit about the Social Security thing and what's going on here with so how people pay into Social Security? Me and James were actually talking about this. Congress in 1983, Congress borrowed $7.3 trillion from the Social Security Trust Fund, right? Which is supposed to go to people for future use. And then every time we get a few trillion in there, they borrow it, but they never pay it back. I mean, do you know, is that actually legal? I mean, are they allowed to borrow it without, public consent and then never pay it back? I mean, is that not theft?
Well, that's what government does to people every day. I mean, I think all taxation is theft, which is why I'm a strong advocate for having a government that's barely big enough to ensure your rights are protected. So and nothing more. But yeah, I mean, I would, if it were unconstitutional, it probably would have been challenged and the court would have stepped in. But I mean, it's sad that that's the case, and it's sad that it's not funded. I mean, and it's a reality that we're going to have to face in the not too distant future. I think that it's scheduled to the money that is going out is going to eclipse the money that's coming in.
But see that right there, what you just said
in the next 7 years.
Yeah, that is extremely angering, if you will, because we would have right now, had they not borrowed and never paid back starting in 1983, we'd probably have $15-20 trillion in that Social Security fund that would take care of Social Security for the next 100 years or something, right? $15-20 trillion is probably what we would have right now in that trust fund to take care of everybody. Instead, they borrow that money, never pay it back, and now Rand Paul says, oh, we're probably going to raise the age to 70. I mean, a lot of people don't want to work until they're 70. That's insane. What are your thoughts on them trying to raise the age to 70?
Yeah, we can draw some parallels between this and Obamacare. But look, the Democratic Party, when they sold the Social Security system, it was a total sham. basically this is what government does. They step in and they say, we're here to help. We're going to provide this, amazing service to you. But at the end of the day, you're paying for it. And the question I would ask most people is, if you had taken the amount of money that you've been putting into Social Security, your FICA payments that you've been paying and your employer's been paying, and you put that money into an index fund, on the stock market, you would be wealthy.
We should be able to opt out of those Social Security. We should be able to opt out of having to pay taxes for the Social Security and just fend for ourselves if we want to.
I totally agree, because frankly, the Social Security system is a really crappy pension system. I mean, like the worst. And Matt, would you trust a politician to invest your money?
I wouldn't trust a politician for anything. Walk my dog,
No, this notion that that politicians somehow can manage funds better than a money management firm, or that it's just absurd. And so what we end up with, like all things the government does, is mediocrity and a crappy product, and one that's not accountable to the people. And so that's the system that we have. It was originally calculated, and it was set up so that the amount that was going in and the average, life expectancy was around 60 years old at the time that system was created. Today, it's more like 80 in the mid 80s.
They're hoping everybody would die before they had to pay for it.
That's right. That they would So when it was set up so that if you live longer than expected, then you could have funds available. That's not the case today.
And we had no say in it. That's the thing. They can tax us. It's funny because I talk to James about this sometimes. They can okay, so our country was basically started because of taxes, right? Because of the British taxes on tea that basically started the whole thing, right? But then 100 years later, or however long it is, Congress puts in a provision in the Constitution that says they can tax us as much as they want. I mean,
in the 16th Amendment. Is that what
the irony is unbelievable here.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into that, Eric? Do you think there's any truth that there wasn't a quorum when that was ratified?
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah. I'll have to check back. It's been quite some time since I've heard this theory. Yeah. But I think that at one point in time, it might have been almost 15 plus years ago, maybe close to 20 years ago, somebody handed me a copy of a DVD, and I think it's called Loose Change.
Oh yeah.
James has told me about that many times.
About 9/11.
So it first started about the first part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe if people on the internet want to correct me, it's fine. I think the first part of it is talking about how the income tax system is not exactly what was passed or ratified by the states. Income at that time was somewhat similar to what we would call capital gains tax today. It wasn't your wages.
It wasn't your right.
And so, that kind of evolved to end up becoming people's, wages. And people have tried to challenge that. It's never gone, worked its way through the courts. But at least, and I'm not saying that this is accurate. I'm just saying that that was a documentary that I remember watching almost 20 years ago.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up about Social Security and taxes. This is something that has driven me nuts, and I'll try and be concise. Many years ago, Eric, I had an employee named Porfirio Dominguez. He was a dishwasher. He was from Mexico. He was awesome. Now, at the time, Reagan's, I think it was an 86 Immigration Act had passed. So I had to fill out what's called an I-9 form. I know you're aware of that. And people, they take a picture of your driver's license, Social Security card. That was because of Reagan's law. Reagan said, okay, we're going to give amnesty to all these people. It'll never happen again because we're going to pass this law that as an employer, you have to get an I-9 film for that. So Porfirio was having trouble with his taxes. I called the Social Security Administration on the phone. I said, this guy's having issues. What's the deal? She goes, sir, that Social Security number is to a woman, not a man. So in my broken Spanish, I got the truth from Porfirio. He said everybody that comes across the border buys a black market Social Security. Now it's a real number, but it's a card. However 20 million, 30 million immigrants that are working in America right now, Eric, almost all of them are working with forged documents. That's my first point.
Yeah.
Because you may have never heard this because it's never discussed in Congress. Number two, E-Verify would instantly solve that issue. The I-9 form is a joke because they get around it with a forged Social Security card. All they need to do is a driver's license. And in Missouri, you can walk in with a birth certificate from Guadalajara and get a driver's license. So why is E-Verify? I know it's come up before. Two questions. Talk to me about E-Verify and any legislation that you know about. And number two, is the idea that billions and billions have been withdrawn from fake cards and is in the Treasury somehow, is that ever discussed?
Yeah. Okay. So to your first question, I'm pretty sure that there is, I'm pretty confident there is a bill on instituting E-Verify. And I believe, and my memory may be wrong here, but I think it's being sponsored by Andy Biggs from Arizona.
Yeah.
And so that is a bill. I don't know if it gets very far. It clearly has not come up on the floor for a vote that I recall.
It has before, and maybe it's been proposed before. It's never come up for a vote or passed. Let me put it that way. But anyway, go on.
And I think some of the pushback is from business community, people that represent business.
Yeah.
They don't want to have an extra burden, some kind of paperwork process. But at the end of the day, to your point, we have a lot of people that are defrauding the federal government. We have what was discovered during the Doge efforts. And thank goodness for Elon Musk. But I mean, they went through the Social Security system and found people that were 200 years old or people that have not been born yet that were in the Social Security system, right? So you had people with I think that there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people that were sharing the same Social Security number.
Wow.
So what they said is that it's not necessarily that these people are getting these Social Security numbers to get Social Security.
Right.
It's that they use that, everything else that people do, everything else you sign up for, whether it's TANF, food stamps, or Medicaid, you name it, the free housing that was given away, whether you're going to go to
or just to get a job.
Yeah, all of that stems on a Social Security number. If it's easily faked, then you can easily get into these other programs. Once you've got that number, then you can get government money through TANF and food stamps and Medicaid.
You're absolutely right, and also vote. I mean, we don't know how many people have voted, using these fake Social Security numbers. So I want to ask you something that's again, it's going to kind of change topic a little bit. For you said you've been in Congress for how long?
This is my third year.
Third year. Okay, so I just want to ask you. See, James and I have a theory about why Congress, is so corrupt in certain areas. So I want to ask you, when it was your first year, when you were a freshman congressman, were you ever approached by, like the senior congressman and asked, told you can't do this, or you should, watch out for this, or any of that kind of stuff, or maybe like AIPAC saying, we'll give you money, but you better do what we say, things like that, because that's our theory for a lot of the congressmen out there. Now, I'm not saying you did it because I know you're actually a very honest person. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, okay. So let me, once you win the election, which for me, it was pretty tough. I had Washington, D.C. spend nearly $3 million in attack ads against me because they had seen my record in Missouri and knew that I was, a straight shooter and was not exactly somebody that was just going to, do everything that the speaker or the president of the Senate at that time wanted. And I was an independent thinker and was willing to stand up to leadership.
That's why I asked you that question, because you are that person that would stand up and, not do it.
Yeah. And that is, if you're Kevin McCarthy, which he didn't want someone like me coming in. Right. And so there was money, and I'm not saying it was Kevin, but it was, groups that were trying to protect Kevin's interests that spent nearly $3 million in the most vicious attack ads on me that you can imagine. And I mean, this is
in the primary.
Yeah, in a primary, and it totally eclipses the amount of money that I can raise. And it really, that whole system is, it's all done in such a way to give power to people in leadership, because they can go and ask for these huge checks to go into these super PACs. And here I am being capped at I think it was $2,800 that I could ask from an individual. And so
that's right.
How in the world am I going to raise $3 million, $2,800 at a time? Right. At the most individuals are not willing to do that. But that's the reality of the situation that we live in, is that I busted my tail to raise nearly $1 million in my first primary, and I outraised my opponent. Now he threw in a bunch of money in his that he took out a loan and spent, I think, close to $700,000 in a loan, in addition to the money that he raised. So I was outspent by him, and I was outspent on the PAC side. But at the end of the day, the voters saw right through it, and we won. And the moment that you win, then that's when the courting starts, right? So everybody that was against you before or was on the sidelines is now calling you, saying, "Congratulations! I knew you were going to win. I was with you all along." and then the first thing that they'll start saying is, what path would you like to go down? What committees are important to you? What would you like to be? What committees you want to be on? And of course, it's always couched in, that there are, there's A committees, B committees, and C committees. And the A committees raise more money than the B committees. B committees raise more money than C committees. And you have a hard, unless you're really close to leadership, and and this is where the conversation happens. They say, if you play your cards right and you work hard and leadership likes you, then you can make your way to an A committee. And if you don't, then you'll be relegated to the B or the C or the D committees.
But Eric, isn't it all about raising money? Did we lose him?
It's both.
Sorry.
So his internet's a little off right now.
It's okay.
We
can hear you.
It's just lagging, but we can still hear you.
It is both. So I literally was told that in the steering committee, which is mostly led by the speaker and that kind of group, they discussed that I was, the whip team couldn't always, I wasn't always voting with leadership. So that was one check against me. I was, I've publicly stood up against leadership in the press, and called, when you do stupid things and you're violating, the Constitution, when you do things that really violate basic norms, and then I'm not going to keep quiet. And if somebody asks me, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say, no, this is a stupid bill. And
honestly, Eric, have you? I'm sorry, I think you're cutting out. Have you?
The third thing is money. The third thing is money. So if you raise enough, if you want to be on certain committees, they literally will give you a menu of how much money you need to raise to be on, X, Y, or Z committee.
Yeah.
Or what you're expected to give to be on those committees. So you got to raise the money and give it to the party. you've got to vote the way leadership wants you to vote, and then you also can't talk bad. You have to, like, stay in your seat and be quiet, basically.
So the one thing I wanted to ask you, has anybody, and you don't have to name names, but has anybody threatened you to get you to vote a certain way, or threatened you, said, you need to stay in your lane, or anything like that?
I've had threats before from people outside. I've had kind of veiled threats from people within the party. Yeah, so it usually it's in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
So nobody's ever really carried out a threat to me.
Hey, I've got to ask you this. I know you know Marjorie Taylor Greene pretty well. She has caught a lot of hell, and we've got to talk about the issue, the elephant in the room, so to speak, GOP, is this division within our party over Israel. Yeah. And I'm just going to say personally, I admire the hell out of that woman for standing firm on her principles. What are your thoughts?
So I think that there is, to me, it's not that cut and dry of an issue. I think that I think that the people of Israel have a right to be there. Sure. I think that Israeli people have a right. And when people say from the river to the sea, that is I have no problems. That is an absolutely anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Oh yeah.
Because you're basically telling a people group that have lived there longer than Native Americans lived in the United States. Okay. Yep. And existed there. And to say that they don't have a right to be there, or that they are colonizers, is ridiculous. They were displaced throughout time, but not everybody. And I think that some people kind of forget that part of history, is that even like when Israel was taken to captivity in Babylon, there was still a remnant of Jews that stayed behind. Yeah. And those settlements, they just didn't have any political power. Everything was being controlled out of Babylon. But and then whenever they returned, right? And they were allowed to return, so they resettled, rebuilt the temple, and then then you had the modern times where they were dispersed into Eastern Europe and beyond. Yeah. And then after World War II, they were able to come back. But even before World War II, there were Israelites that were living and had always been living in that area. Yeah. So this, and if you ever go to Israel, you'll realize it's very much like the United States. You have a home where they will have prominent display of the Star of David on their home, next to a home that has the Muslim crescent moon, next to another home that has the Christian cross. Okay. Yeah. And so that is what Israel allows. And which is why the fact that they are tolerant to other faiths is, I think, not acceptable to the Shia Muslim community. And so I think that it does, I think that there's a balance here. I don't think that it doesn't categorically mean that every decision that Israel makes is something that we have to support.
No,
right?
No, it's definitely not.
So to me, I will fight to make sure that we continue our alliance with Israel, to make sure that that nation is protected, that because it is particularly a free country existing, and it's one of our top it probably is our number one ally in the world. But it doesn't mean that we have to agree with everything that Benjamin Netanyahu does.
No, 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 definitely. I mean, it just depends on, your own values, whether you agree on it or not. But I agree with what you're saying. One thing I do want to know, and it's a good thing you brought up, the Christian cross. Now, Christians are being, systematically slaughtered in Nigeria. The whole genocide that's happening over there. And President Trump did finally say something about it. He said, that they're going to make sure that it stops. How would you feel about say they didn't stop, say they kept killing, because apparently it's been like 33,000 or something has been, or I don't remember how many thousand it's been that's been killed.
50,000
I'm sorry, James.
since 2009.
Oh yeah, so they've been killing them, a lot.
I think it's
So
50,000 since 2009. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel about how would you feel about boots on the ground to help save the Christians in Nigeria if other measures don't work?
I think that would be a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you can probably do a lot through sanctions. Mm-hmm. You could probably get their attention through a number of means. You could provide a way out for people that want to get out of that country. There's some countries that I think sometimes you just have to realize there's no redeeming it until
shouldn't this be a higher priority though? Because they're slaughtering Christians everywhere.
I think it's appalling, and I had I've had a lot of Christians in my district reach out asking me to do something, and when we looked into it, it was that what the president needed to do was to categorize Nigeria as a particular status, like change their status mm-hmm. to a country of concern. Mm-hmm. And Trump did do that. So that was good to see. And that does come with it that Nigeria, as far as the United States is concerned, does not have experienced the same economic trade that other countries do. So that's the first step. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But I use the country like Haiti, for example. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's some like I had constituents that were missionaries in Haiti, mm-hmm. and that place has just become a hellscape. Yeah. For anybody.
It's horrible.
And sadly they were martyred in Haiti, and so it's just, that you talk about one of a gut-wrenching weekend was getting phone calls from their parents trying to, telling me that they're under attack at their missionary, at the mission that they were located at, mm-hmm. that they were, then the attacks escalated. And then, and here I am getting on the phone we're trying to do everything we can to get help there. So, but and
they were killed.
Sadly, yeah, and they were killed in a very brutal way. Mm-hmm. in such a way that it almost it makes you realize there's true evil in this world, and that's kind of the takeaway that I have. Is that we're very blessed living in the United States, mm-hmm. but I think that we kind of become a little bit, in this Goldilocks environment. We ignore the fact that that this is unique, and that world history, and that and most countries do not operate this way. Nope. And that you've got tyranny in almost every shape or form throughout all of history, and every country, and people that are that have hate in their hearts and violence and all of the things that we're seeing, all of the evil around the world. It's just, sadly, it's a part of human nature. And to deny that, I think, is just sticking your head in the sand. Mm-hmm. The question is, how do we keep people how do we keep people safe from harming each other? And I think that this system that our founding fathers gave us is the best system that we've seen in history, mm-hmm. for creating peace and prosperity for everyone here.
And sadly, we've learned that we can't be the world's policeman. It's horrific what's happening in Nigeria. One of my really close friends is Nigerian, and he's a Christian. He's a doctor here in America, but we used to work together. And I mean, he's told me for 2 decades how corrupt that country is. There's really not that we just can't fix everybody. I wish we could, but I want to ask you, because you brought up Elon Musk and Doge. Americans, particularly your constituents, Eric, and people like Jack, we loved what Doge did. I mean, it was amazing. Now, I know you're on a couple committees about financial government responsibility and reform. What happened to Doge? Is it still going on? Where are we at with all of that?
Yeah, so I'm actually on the Doge committee in oversight. So it's being chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she does a fantastic job as the chairwoman of that committee. You definitely see her in action. She's a businesswoman, and people that have real business experience, especially as a small business owner, they operate a whole nother level than most politicians do.
Yeah.
And that's Marjorie. She's a hard worker. She does a great job managing that committee, and she doesn't take crap from anybody. And so we're the way that we operated in conjunction with the Doge effort. We had meetings with Elon and his teams. And so that was, to me, that was a really awesome experience when he was there. But the teams still go, and they are still working to make government efficient. And there's a number of ways in which they're doing that. They're identifying places where there's been fraud and waste, but they're also finding ways of making government more efficient. Like,
how come there hasn't been any charges though from all these fraud? I mean, they have found lots of fraud and abuse, but there's not any charges coming out of any of this.
Yeah, that would be a question for Pam Bondi.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that a lot of this is being referred to the Department of Justice, and
they're like sitting on everything, it seems like.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I kind of share Trump's frustration with that one tweet that he sent out saying, I think in the tweet he said, or his truth post, he said, I've had 30 conversations today, or seen 30 conversations today where
he
people
accidentally sent that.
are saying that that nothing is being done, or nothing will ever be done, and I frankly agree, and I'm frustrated as well. But now I am happy that at least some progress is being made. The fact that they're going after Bolton, who I think who's like a self-serving, traitorous individual.
Definitely.
Same thing with Comey and Brennan. I mean, the fact that these guys thought that it would be okay to spy on United States senators and members of Congress.
Jack Smith.
It's absurd. Yeah. It's absurd. I mean, I'm really glad. I think we have been going down this horrific path for decades. Yeah. And thank God for Donald Trump, because I think if he had not been elected, we would not be returning to this kind of this notion that the government doesn't belong to the bureaucrats. The government belongs to the people, and those that they elect. Our job is to be the trustee for the thing that belongs to the people. Yeah, that's what Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Bolton, those guys all lost sight of that, and instead they just use the government for their self-interest and building their empires.
So let me ask you, what do you think? And this is something that has to do with religion, but it's more of an ideology thing. What do you think about how there's all this illegal immigration going on, not just in America? Well, I mean, Trump kind of put a stop to it, but there's still a lot of them here, but all over the world, especially in the UK. All this illegal immigration. What do you think about? It seems to me, and a lot of others, and probably a lot of your constituents, maybe even James too, about the Islamic takeover of what seems like the world. I mean, it seems like not only are these people taking over the world, I mean, look at Texas and New York, but they're being allowed to happen. I mean, these people will block the roads. Nothing will happen to them. These people will, in Dearborn, Michigan, they play their call to prayer 5 times a day, 5:30 in the morning. But if you did that for Christianity or anything else, you'd be arrested. This thing blares on the speakers outside this church in Dearborn. I mean, it seems like to me, it's taking over America. It's definitely taken over the UK. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this, and how would you stop something like that?
Well, I think we should stop allowing people from these countries to immigrate here, because their culture is incongruent with the fabric of the United States of America.
Exactly.
And so they unless they completely have a transformation of of philosophy, or can demonstrate that they are I think that with by and large, with maybe a few exceptions, we should not be allowing people from Sharia-run nations to immigrate to the United States,
like Nigeria.
Right.
And you've got the fact that nobody's assimilating. Anybody that comes in now, look at Zorhan Mamdani up there. He is actually he's done commercials and political commercials in Spanish, in Arabic. I mean, this man is not only is he pandering to everybody, but he knows that there's so many illegal immigrants that he can get them to vote for him because of, like we talked about earlier, the fake social security numbers and all that. I mean, so they said maybe 10 million illegal immigrants came in over those 4 years. My numbers have it closer to 30 to 35 million illegal immigrants that came over during that time. You got to think that's 1/5, or no, not 1/5, excuse me. That's 1/10. American population is now illegals. That's insane.
It is insane. And the fact that the Democratic Party, that this was part of their strategy, once they realized that they can, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that when you see Venezuela become a socialist state and all these people want to
Brazil.
Then you take, they were socialists there, bring them over, right?
Yeah.
Bring them over here. And the first thing you do is you put them on the welfare system, and get them to believe that America is the greatest socialist nation on earth. And the truth is, we've allowed a lot of socialism in the United States and just kind of ignored it. And I think it's time that we kind of rethink a lot of the things that we have allowed to kind of fester in this country. And that's why what the Democrats, if you think about it, they just thought, well, we'll bring over these socialists, let them kind of remake America, change the political landscape. And even if we can't get them to vote, we will boost our numbers so that we get more representation in Congress, right?
And what you just said was exactly. They have two ways of doing this. Either the illegals are going to vote, and they're going to get the illegals to vote so they can win all the elections, or they got the census so they get more seats. Or the best way to so Vladimir Lenin said socialism, the goal of socialism is communism. That's the end game of socialism. So what I think they're doing is, if this doesn't work with the illegals and the voting and getting them everything they need, they're letting crime in all these cities and states get as bad as it can get. Okay, they're letting crime go so the country can go. They're letting illegals come in so the country can go bad. Because what do you do when everything's terrible? You say, okay, I'm going to bring in my communist ideology, clean up everything very easily. And then I'll clean this up if you guys adopt, this communist ideology kind of thing. So if you come in, say nothing's working right now, then all of a sudden you got Zorhan Mamdani running for president in 2028. And he's got his whole communist, agenda and everything. And I'll clean up the whole country. Then he cleans it up. And before you know it, America is now a communist country because he cleaned it up.
Yeah, if you think about it, there's a lot of, if you read the book Animal Farm, you pick up on a lot of things that can translate today. The pig Napoleon was able to get the litter of puppies and raise them secretly away from the other animals, where he was able to kind of basically create his SS, if you will. And that's what the Democrats have been trying to do, is in order to remake America, they bring in their army of socialists, and then you've got the violent aspect of the Democratic Party. And you've got I mean, I'll call it out. The left has become violent.
Absolutely.
They blamed us. They blamed, grandma and grandpas that were peacefully walking through the nation's capital on January 6th. But then they're okay with all the attacks and the burning that occurs in all these cities from Antifa, from BLM, and all of it is being funded by different groups. And that's why I really hope that Trump and the Department of Justice follows through after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And they really need to follow through and say, we're going to clean up this, this system that has been created where money is flowing to people to be violent and to cause insurrection in the United States.
So we don't have much time left. I got to ask you, I ran into you in Ozark, Missouri at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. It was a very moving time, I know, for you, for me, for all of us. It's really difficult, really difficult. Are you confident in the leadership and the Department of Justice and specifically the FBI and in their relation to the Charlie Kirk investigation? Because I know, you hear it. I'm not Candace Owens crazy, but there's a lot of questions that haven't been answered, Eric. What are your thoughts? And then before you leave, I got to ask you about the shutdown.
We still got 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I truly think I'm disappointed with the Department of Justice. I think that, I think the rot is so deep that they could not. I think they could just continue to fire and fire and fire, but they got to fill it with good people. Yeah. And I know a lot of really great attorneys that have presented themselves to be available. That would be fantastic. In our own area, we have a former U.S. attorney, Tim Garrison. Yeah. And then we have Jay Ashcroft. It's flabbergasting to me that this administration doesn't have a role for them, particularly in the Justice Department. But I think that the rot is so bad that they're still digging that out. And then and they're having to work with what people that they do have that will actually work with this administration. So a lot more needs to be done.
There's plenty of pushback within these agencies, right? By the bureaucrats left over from previous administrations.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the deep state is a real thing. It's absolutely, it's absolutely real. I think that DC has been run by the deep state for probably the last 60 years.
Well, and those bureaucrats know they can just wait it out. They've been through many administrations. It's like, he's Trump's, he'll be gone. So Jack, I don't know what your thoughts are, but what's the situation on the shutdown? Are you enjoying it? First of all, being home with your family a little more. It's got to be nice.
I hate to be like, but yeah, I mean, it's been good for me personally and my family to be home. It's also been good for the district because I've been able to go to event after event after event in the community. I go to as many club meetings as I can to give speeches and to get reconnected with my district and hear them directly. Right. When you go to all these, whether it's a Rotary Club meeting or you name it, you're able to actually talk to a real person as opposed to just the people that are calling you on the phone or the people that are screaming, right? When you actually talk to people, the two things that I consistently hear is, that, hey, this government shutdown isn't affecting me and keep it up. Frankly, they would love it to stay shut down. The most excited people got about the government shutdown was when they heard that Russ Vought might actually terminate employees or use the shutdown to make permanent terminations of employees. I sent him a list of areas I think that they should start.
I like that.
But it's sad, but I wish that they would lean into that more. I think that would get the Democrats' attention, right? To me, what I would do, and I'm pretty, what I would do is I would say tomorrow, because the government shut down, we will be terminating this agency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if we're still shut down in 2 more days, we will find another agency and we will have to terminate employees in that agency.
Would be
That's a great
wonderful.
way to
And then
put
and
pressure
just
on.
keep it going. Just keep it going. And eventually, after you start cutting all of these liberal bastions
Mhm.
that the left and the Democratic Party have created and instituted, eventually they'll come to once you bring them to their knees, then
Right.
they will actually come to the table and negotiate. But right now, they're the ones that are trying to hold the cards and demand from us.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So since you do have to go in a few minutes, since our show is almost over, I wanted to ask you one quick question, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but I just want to know from your personal opinion, do you think Tyler Robinson was the one that killed Charlie Kirk? And if so, do you think he was alone in that?
I don't know enough about that. I mean, only from what I've seen in the news. And so I think that if anything, it's clear that he was part of a community of people online that was kind of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And I hope the FBI continues to look into that and see to what extent that they knew that this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff. I mean, there was a song they were playing a couple days ahead. I don't know if you heard this one, Eric. Have you heard about the Google searches that happened in July?
From Israel.
There were Google I'll send you a link to the video. Google searches of Tyler Robinson with his middle name, of Tyler's lawyers, of the surgeons that worked on Charlie.
Yeah.
Of the building that the shooter was on. There were all these and they were like single, it wasn't like a bunch of people. It was like one ISP address.
And they were all from
Israel.
Yeah.
Which is just bizarro, man.
I mean, it doesn't get more, conspiracy laden than that.
I know. It's just wild. Well, listen, I know your family's there. We're going to let you go. I really, really appreciate this, my friend. You are, like Jack said, you're not just one of the honest ones. You're one of the hardest working. You represent the values that I know our listeners appreciate. So
that's why we wanted you on here, definitely.
Thank you, and appreciate what you guys do. And James, I really have enjoyed getting to know you over the years and talking about some of the conspiracies that we love talking about.
We've had a good time.
Fun.
By the way, you can catch Eric. Don't you do Nick's show every Monday?
Yeah, I'm on Nick Reed each Monday, but I also have a podcast called Fresh Freedom.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
You can find that on all the podcast areas. It's a podcast of the freedom-loving members of Congress who
Burchett's on that, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Isn't Tim Burchett part of that?
We've had him on as a guest.
Okay, gotcha.
And so, yeah, it's a casual conversation about what's happening.
Excellent.
What's the name of the show?
Where do they find it? Yeah.
It's called Fresh Freedom.
Fresh Freedom on YouTube. I've seen it. It's
YouTube, okay.
Amazing.
YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of it.
Awesome. Excellent.
Well, we really appreciate it. That's Congressman Eric Burlison. I'm James Clary. He's Jack Danger. This is Secret America. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Secret America with Jack Danger and James Clary.